Hey guys, what is going on? So I said I was going to make a video based on the watch list, so I'm going to do that. So essentially what we're looking at to this week is top 6 additionals and a few extras. I only got one pair on watch today, which is the Germany 40, but going from top down on here, we're looking at the daily on the DXY. And currently I'm looking at longs. We can see this huge momentum to the upside. The only thing I'm looking at here is that we haven't really had any sort of consolidating pullback. So I think for the case of not having that consolidating pullback, it's really a case now where what is going to happen over here is very subjective. Now it is correctively in a squeeze, and I think because it's in a corrective squeeze here, there's a high probability that we could get a correction here. So I don't want to be just taking any average position in here based upon the current price action, because this can really just pull back and become something like that, and then you just get a pullback into one of these areas and then it moves higher. So for that reason, I just want to really let price give me a clue to what's happening. But for now, we're just very clearly moving to the upside, and you know, if it did just push up and tap into those areas, fine, fair enough, like that makes a lot of sense. It's better for us to just wait now to see if, you know, price is going to create something larger, pull back into these areas, and then create something where we can then go long. We just don't really know exactly where price is moving towards, so for that reason it's just better to just wait for price to give us a clear clue before we take the next move higher. But all in all, it's looking really nice for the DXY, especially when you look at it from a weekly perspective. You can see we've tapped into this area, tested it 3 times, created the floor, mini double bottom in there as well, and then we pushed away. Yeah, it didn't tap into that low there, but it's not completely necessary. We can still come all the way back up here before we come down, and I think that's one of the beauties of this. So DXY is very simple, very straightforward. SPX, we are in all-time high areas, so I'm looking for more continuation to the upside. I'm not going to really be wasting my time looking for shorts unless we had something very significant, and the shorts really come into play like in this area to that low, and then if we do break this low, you know, in this area. So the main areas of short I'm looking for would probably be here and probably in those areas there. So that's the only times I'd be looking for a short, but otherwise we are breaking all-time highs. What do we know about the S&P 500? It's a very bullish pair, so if we do get continuation to the upside, why hesitate? You know, take the long and carry on playing this. This can just continue to trickle and keep going over the course of the remainder of the year into next year and so forth. So for that reason, I'm just happy to kind of hold on and see how that plays. The JP225, from a monthly perspective, that candle was just insane with the drop and then pullback. We're now correctively moving to the upside. We get these little pullbacks. Most likely this retraces and just continues higher. So this was something I was looking at for a potential long. I mean, I think this is enough here. I think it's just with that low just below it. I'm more curious to see if that price does come into those areas, and then if it taps into this, pushes into there, taps into that, and then pushes up higher, gives us continuation here, we may be able to see a long position to go long. And then on related pairs, for the yen pairs, we could probably see the same thing happening. So that's basically how I'm kind of looking at this right now, but I'm not drilled in on taking a JP225 trade. I was interested in trades in this area, but you know, when we had that strong push up and it breaking above this and then pushing back in, I wasn't looking at the long anymore. I was more than happy to just stay out of that. But we can just see, like, we had the strong push in. If we had continuation there to go short, fair enough. It's just within that whole area, it was very subjective and messy, and I'm not surprised that price continued like this. And now we're getting that, and I don't think that is the short to carry on going. I think what this is just accumulation. It's a part of a mess, and it just becomes something like that, or on the off chance we just get momentum and it moves higher. Even so, again, not the biggest fan of the JP225. Now, the top six are looking actually really nice. Weekly perspective, we can see 1 2 3 into the low. We've got this little squeeze. We're coming to the upside. It's very, very clear that we have more than enough to move to the upside. I think this is a great play here where we had this continuation. It failed, it broke the low. Just if I invert this for a second, you can even see it clearly where in no coincidence is it doing this. It's now coming up. And if we get a push down insurance entry here, we could be good to go. So if I just drill into the hourly, I think this is a perfect location now for us to push up, get insurance entry in here, and we go long. I think that would be really, really good. I just don't know about taking the trade in here. I know that this is a bit more higher risk, but the nice thing is it's out of that. So taking that is still pretty good. But I just don't want to take that and it becomes a part of this and then it just drops. And that is also a possibility. I just don't think that this is the go-to. I just think, you know, we've got possibilities here. If I'm going to be taking this, it would be a 3-touch to go short. If I'm taking that as a long one, that's not the structure I want to go long on right now. I just want to see this kind of push higher. And then as that confirms, we get something like this, and I'm happy with that. I'm well happy with that because we've got a clear A to B run. I can get positioned in here, and if I get positioned in here somewhere, stop loss there, call it around about 10 pips, actually would be suitable, 11, 12, whatever. Into that high, I've got about a 5 to 1. I zoom out and I look at it, playing the bigger move. If we're playing to these areas, got about 10 to 1. I'll be happy to get out there. But if you're holding on, got 16 to 1. So positioning, pretty good. Where we've come from, not the best in the world, but it makes sense. We've, you know, that's a bit heavy as well in terms of the push lower. So for that reason, I want to mitigate against all of that and just really see a confirmation that we're just pulling up. And usually, if we do start pulling up more than 50%, which is where we're pretty much borderline in there, it's likely that we're just going to retrace pretty rapidly as well. So I want to see that happen. Aussie US dollar didn't really give me the forecast I'm looking for. It's really just moving lower now. I don't really mind, to be honest, leaving out this one. It's just there's a lot of subjectivity around it. What would be nice is if we tap into some of that news upcoming and it just spikes up. We may see something like that where news comes in and price just rapidly moves to the upside, taps into that, pushes down insurance entry and goes. It's a possibility, likely probably just going to sell off, but if that happens, then I'm ready for that. USD CAD, bit of a iffy one, to be honest. You know, I was looking for price to come down here. I've got to wait. I think the gameplay is probably this, and then we do something like that and we eventually tap into it and we get something like that, and I think I'd be happy with something like this, really and truly. I just think now that definitely is showing it needs a bit more time, which makes sense for the impulse correction and then the next leg, which then breaks above, and then we get the short potentially or whatever. But that's basically what I am looking for. It looks okay. It's just one of those trades. This one looks, it was looking good, New Zealand CAD. It's giving me exactly what I wanted. We wanted to tap into these areas and we rejected. You know, this is one thing I love about trading now, is like I can really establish pivotal points. So it's really nice to just kind of forecast something and see how it responds and all of that. But anyway, all in all, I'm looking for continuation. With it pulling back like this, not really the best, but if I measure this on, you know, it's still borderline in a good area for the continuation to be made. Perhaps it does something like that, comes down, does this, does that, and then sells. And then we've basically got, you know, this sort of structure in this area. And yeah, who knows? You know, they could really form in many different ways, but I wouldn't be put off by that. I'd be quite excited to see something like this. I'd probably look to take an insurance entry in there. Is probably the more preferred route. And yeah, you get insurance entry in there, and then you manage it into low of that structure. You've got about 3 to 1, 4 to 1, and then 8, and then so forth. So I think New Zealand CAD could still be a gem. We just need to wait and see how it responds to this. This isn't the best structure in the world as well, so it's just higher in risk as well, and it's responding from here, which I don't really prefer. the fact that it's pushed away from here, but what I do like is the fact that it's coming back down. So we just need to wait and see how that plays out. Euro New Zealand, you know, I've been watching this one and I did make a few percentage on it, but it's one of those ones now I'm just happy to leave it, really and truly, like let it do its thing. If you wanted to zoom in and get into some trades, like yeah, sure, you've got all this stuff shaping up and stuff, but do you know what, it's not one that I don't want to just be sitting here just monitoring this trade and let it just kind of trickle out on me and this and that. Like sure, I could have taken a trade in here and whatnot. I just think it's not a me type of trade. I can just already feel it. GN though, on the other hand, surprised, pushed up, came in here, gave a little bit V shape, pushed off, sold. Interesting, but again, one of those ones where yeah, I think there is potential here. I mean, you could really make a trade in here, but you do that, got this, and then your trade thesis is there. You can go back to the 15 and wait for your confirmation there, and then basically just take the trade in these areas. Again, I don't know, it doesn't hit me the same as how most trades do. Euro US dollar, again, one of those ones where it's kind of just now just pushed lower and lower and lower. The range is fairly large here. You've got this point, this point, this point. I'm just going to keep it simple and say here, and then if it does really want to come back and it comes all the way up there, I don't think that's the possibility. I think really and truly this is the structural area. I think the minimal area I'm looking at is probably here, but then we'll get the clear message from the market and it does that, and then it sells off, comes back into these areas, comes back, does that, and maybe creates like a 1 2 3 into it, and then we get the sell, and then that becomes the overall ranged area. That one is negated, and then we're basically looking at that, and I think that is much nicer all in all. Or if we get a clear 1 2 3, that would be awesome too, to be honest. I would not mind something like that. We have 1 2 3 responds and sells, happy as day, but again, just need some time to let it develop. I don't want to be speculating too much over this, so I'm just going to leave it open here and wait for the data to be presented, and then I can act accordingly. GBP USD is an interesting one because we have tapped into that inflection area here, and I just want to see how price responds, and then in coinciding it with what we were just looking at on Euro USD, we've left this little point here. If we do create that sort of internal one here, then Euro USD would play that internal one there. So that's something that I'm just looking at carefully. But again, I just want to see how that shapes up. New Zealand US dollar. This one I do like because it's kind of giving me more for structure here, and I like how the expanding is coming into that little point there. So I do want to see how this shapes up here. If it comes into there, we get push, insurance entry, boom, we're good for the go. And I think that's more so something I'm looking at. I think that will be more for tomorrow trade or Friday. So we'll see how that shapes up. EJ needs more time, a lot more time. USD, yen, I like it, but then at the same time, again, there's a lot of subjectivity around it. So it's one of those ones where you could look to play strategic, play that. I just think it's not the one for me. I'm going to wait patiently and see if we do get a push up. A flag above this area is perfect, to be honest. Flag above there, or break through or below that area there for a short, happy as day. EA taps into this area, push down insurance entry, happy with that. That could be a tomorrow trade for sure, so I'll be keeping a close eye on EA. And then Aussie 200. So weirdly enough, I did get a trade in here. So I'll just zoom out on daily. You can see how we're just squeezing, and it's a very high risk territory, but it's completely okay for my current monthly positioning. 1 2 3 into this area, we're coming back on for another test, getting closer on the 4 and the 1, and you can see that, you know, we rejected from this area and left this small gap. So then I was looking at that gap and I was like, oh, this is interesting. So we've got the gap. Are we going to retest the back end of this gap? We don't have to fill it just yet. And then we had this sort of internal structure, which you can see closer on the 5. And then I was monitoring this closely to see, okay, so we had that point there, we pushed, we near missed it, and then we came back up, came in, near missed it again, came in just about, met with it, and then pushed lower. And then over here, I was thinking, did I miss a trade? And then I was patient, waiting, and then I was like, okay, there's a high probability we tap into this and reject. And then what happened was we came in here, and then I think it was just roughly around about here where we rejected and closed. And then I was looking at this and I took the trade right here, somewhere around about right here, and I stepped my stop loss. I think it was roughly around about 15 pips if I'm correct. I think it was roughly around about 12 or 15, I can't remember exactly. And then price came back down here, and then I literally just got out of the trade there. Around about here somewhere, roughly around about here somewhere, I got out the trade because it basically tapped into the low, pushed up. I had break even then, and then it pushed down again, and then as it broke the low I was like, well, if this comes back up again, I'm happy to leave it. So set my stop loss there, and then coincidentally it just retraced and then pushed up a little bit higher and took me out. And then it did come down again, but then we can see ultimately it came all the way up here. So had I even tried to leave it open completely, I would have been just taken out before it went and came down again. And then now we're all the way up here somewhere. I think this is still a very risky area. Ultimately, I don't think it's the best trade in the world. It was strategic. It was just basically playing it off, you know, all of this, the push, high up in the run, and so forth. And I think there was definitely a trade in there. I could have gotten a little bit more aggressive if I really wanted to, but I think ultimately I was quite happy with that trade. HK50, I think HK50 is nice because we actually did commit in the end. You know, we responded, we pushed, and now we're down here. And then you look at it and you're like, okay, great. There's trades. I think what I'm waiting for now is just structure to develop. I just need to see something of a sort where whatever this does, whatever it needs to do, so it maybe comes back down into here, comes up, pushes up, near miss, comes up again, taps into it and sells. And then you've got a structure like this in the end where I can see it, you know, I can see it clear as day that we've got a little reference point there, pushed up, retraced, and then you can get involved in this area here, whatever time frame you're working with. I think a 4 hour would be awesome as well. And then to the bottom of this structure, let's say that you're working with around about 13, 14 pips would be nice. I would go about 15 to be extra safe if I can, but you know, 12, 13 is fine. And then to the low, you've got around about 4% there, and then playing the exponential move after once it moves. Yeah, we'll just have to wait and see how that one shapes up, but that's pretty interesting. Coffee, I literally got my coffee trade, which is mad. So I took a loss on this actually earlier on in the week. So I took this trade here, and then we came in over here for a higher risk position, and I was kind of looking at this one where I was zooming a little bit more, and we pushed in here, and then as we had that retrace there, I took the entry just below it over here, and I got literally just tagged in with stop loss was roughly around about here somewhere. Yeah, just roughly around about there. It's a pretty large stop loss as well. And then I was like, well, okay, fine. So I've got roughly around about 2, 3, 4% to that low, and then I'm playing the bigger move. And I thought, yeah, great, that's a perfect position. Just took me out and then did that and then sold off, and now it's here. And I think I was contemplating this trade in the end, contemplating that one, and I was just kind of like, no, I'm going to leave it. I'm up for the month now. I'm in a good position. I don't want to just now blindly just start taking loads of trades. But overall, this is what I was looking at, and I think we're good. I think right now, with the current positioning, confirmation and stuff, even at this moment in time, we're in a very good place for this pair, and I think there's a lot of potential in the market right now for coffee. And I think coffee's got some gems in it. So ultimately, if I zoom out on the 4, you can see it, you know, large into that push up M star, and then what did we do down here? We did the exact same thing, large push up M star, push down, smaller flag, and go. And that's the beauty of it. So that's it. And then I've got the Germany 40. The Germany 40 is nice. I mean, you know, we're looking at it for shorts. I think this could be an internal little mini flag inside it to go short. I thought this was going to be a middle section for the expanding, but now looking at it, expanding is getting a bit too large, and I don't know. I think the expanding might be a bit for too much of an ask. I think we get this sort of internal structure in here. We don't get this expanding. This just happened to be one piece of its own, like that. Then it had the override inside it, and now we're just getting some sort of structure here where it's basically that. I just don't like that, you know. I have to go to the 15 to see it, but then if I zoom in over here and start making something like a corrective squeeze, yeah, it was just one of those ones I was happy to just leave alone. But yeah, it looks good. It looks like it's definitely got potential. I'm not in favor of this very steep. This is like extremely steep in the sense of a 1 hour, and I have to go to the 15 to see it, and then it's just kind of like, what am I doing? So I wanted to leave it alone, and then I said I'll look at it like this, and if it comes back up to this area, then yeah, sure, I can take it as an expanding, where it pushes up, gives me insurance entry and goes. So I'll just wait and see if that comes up, comes back down, gives me insurance entry and sells, and then I'm way happier taking that, rather than just kind of jumping into some average trade right now. So that's basically it, and that's my watch list for the week. So hope you guys found some value in this video as well. If you have any questions, feel free to drop me a DM. I'd be more than happy to help. Thanks.